Hi friends. Like a lot of you guys, I'm sure, I have spent the last week trying to process everything that's happening in this country and take a look inward and figure out how I personally can do better to make the world better for other people. I'm fortunate enough to have this platform, and I've always looked at it as a way to be able to lift people's spirits and make them feel better through my music, or make them feel less alone through the mental health chats that I do. It makes me feel good to be able to help other people in some small way, and I'm so grateful that I have this opportunity to do that. And I would be doing myself and you all a disservice if I didn't use this platform to talk about things that are important. So I have written some things out, and I know that it's not going to be perfect. I'm sure it's going to be flawed, but it's a start. I remember the exact moment I made the conscious decision to not say anything publicly when it came to racial issues. A Black friend of mine posted an article on her Facebook page a couple years ago called "I Don't Know What to Do with Good White People." The author talked about growing up around good white people who were helpful and encouraging, which was a stark contrast from many of the interactions her parents had with white people while they were growing up and raising their family. But what stood out to me was a paragraph where she talked about her white friends posting about deleting their racist Facebook friends, and how she said she almost preferred racist trolls to these people because she thought that sometimes white people expected to be rewarded for being decent, and that white people being vocal about the efforts they were making in their own lives came off as self-aggrandizing. This article came at a time where it felt like I had seen numerous other posts and articles saying that when white people use their voices to talk about racism, it's self-congratulatory, or they're trying to be white saviors. So my reaction to this was twofold. First, I think I had what the normal human reaction would be when it feels like nothing you do or say is right, throwing your hands up in frustrated defeat. Second, for me personally, a large part of my struggle with anxiety comes from second-guessing myself, especially when it comes to social interactions. I'll often pick apart and examine conversations after I have them, afraid that I did or said something that would get misinterpreted in a way that I didn't intend. Having someone think less of me or think that I'm a bad person because they misunderstood something that I said or did is one of my greatest fears. So in that moment, I concluded that my voice was unwanted in the conversation about race and racism, and I would rather say nothing than say something that would inadvertently be harmful or come off in a way that was different than how I meant it despite my best intentions. I've always firmly believed I am not racist. My understanding of the definition of racism was hating someone because of their race and thinking that you were better than them because of yours. I've never felt anything close to this. I openly admit that, like anyone, I am guilty of making subconscious assumptions based on the racial stereotypes that are present in our society, but it has never been malicious or purposeful, and I actively try and fight it when I'm aware that it's happening. So therefore, in my mind, I wasn't racist. What I am coming to realize is that even though I am not racist, I have benefited from institutions that were built on racism. It's easy for me to look at images of slavery and even the civil rights movement and feel far removed from it because I know I personally would never treat someone so inhumanely. But the fact is, because I am white, I have been on the right side of history and still have advantages in my life that I take for granted because of that. I have also always bristled at the term white privilege. It felt like an accusation that I didn't earn the accomplishments I have worked so hard for. But what I'm coming to understand is that someone saying I have white privilege doesn't detract from the fact that I did work hard for my achievements. It just means it wasn't an even playing field to begin with because I had a head start. I was able to turn all of my focus toward achieving my goals because I didn't have to worry about things like money or education. I will never understand what it's like to live as a Black person. The only frame of reference I have is knowing what it means to be a woman. I've had the conversation with several men about how they will never truly understand what it's like to feel on edge every time you find yourself in an elevator alone with a man, or in a parking lot by yourself, or even to be the last one at the gym with a male trainer who you have a great rapport with and know to be a really nice guy, but what if? I can only imagine this feeling of vulnerability is a small fraction of what the average Black person experiences on a daily basis. If anything positive can come from the atrocity of the murder of George Floyd, I hope that it will be that people like me, who have been complacent to be mostly passive in the fight for equality because they didn't fully realize that the fight is not over yet, have been forced to re-examine how they can actively be a better ally. In the description below, I'll link some of the organizations I have donated to and several books by Black authors that came out yesterday that I purchased. I've written to my local police chief petitioning for better training practices for police officers, and I'm looking forward to voting not only in the election in November, but my upcoming local elections. I'll also continue to try to find ways to not just post that I care, but show that I care. Even now, my inner monologue is yelling at me that this video sounds like I just want a pat on the back, and maybe I should turn off the comments so it doesn't seem like I'm seeking validation, and this whole thing probably comes off as me making it about myself. I would just ask that the Black community have a little grace as we try and navigate this conversation. We see you, we hear you, we are ready to change for you. I love you all.